Hey everyone, welcome back to the Shane Show. Today's episode wanted to talk a little bit about addiction, what it is, types of addictions, kind of trauma and how it relates to addiction, and some resources on how you can help heal. So yeah, let's dive right in as we always do. So, what is addiction? Gabor Mate has a famous quote, and it says, "Addiction is manifested in any behavior that a person craves, finds temporary relief or pleasure in, but suffers negative consequences as a result of, and yet has difficulty giving up." I think that's a really good definition of addiction. Um, Another thing to note is all addiction is rooted in trauma, but not all trauma leads to addiction. There are also some myths out there regarding addiction. First of all, addiction is not a disease, never has been. Um, this idea of addictive personality, it's a little bit interesting for sure, but it's also a myth. Research finds absolutely no universal character traits that are common in all addicted people. So I think those are two really important things to note. Um, yeah, so let's also jump into the types of addictions. So I'll start with substance addiction and then go on to process addictions. So substance addictions would be something like alcohol, cigarettes, nicotine vaping, chewing tobacco, drugs such as marijuana, cocaine, prescription drugs like oxycodone, food too, highly processed foods, like really sugary foods, desserts, things like that. Um, and there's many more substance addictions that I'm not going to list here. So there are also process addictions, such as pornography. I think that's a big one. It's not talked about enough, and it's kind of the elephant in the room. Shopping is another huge one. Gambling is a big one. And I really do believe the biggest one that at least I see right now is cell phone addiction. Um, Scrolling social media, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, just online shopping, just the cell phone in general. It seems to be this insanely addicting device. And I know they say it's not so much the device, it's the person, which of course that has a huge role into it. But also some of the apps and social media apps are designed to give you dopamine and keep you addicted. So there's something to say for that too. But I really can't stress enough. I think cell phone addiction is one of the biggest addictions out there. Almost everyone has a cell phone nowadays. So yeah, in places I go like the gym and other places in public, people walking their dogs, I just see people looking down at their phones. Maybe they're answering something important. Who knows? I don't know, but it seems to be very common when I go out and see people just glued to the things. And it's too bad, I think, because I'd love to see people talk more and make eye contact more and just, yeah, more socialization instead of being on that device. Um, Anyways, just my little side rant. So yeah, those are the process addictions, and also more I'm not listing here today. Some of the inner workings of addictions that I've noticed are all addictions come from an emotional loss, and they exist to soothe the pain resulting from that loss. Another thing to note is that denial is like that gatekeeper of addiction. It just keeps that loop going, and if we keep denying to ourselves that we're not addicted, we're not being honest with ourselves. We're not saying, hey, you know what, I have some issues, and I'm coping with them with drugs or whatever it is, alcohol or pornography, and there's no shame in that. Sometimes we actually need these things, else we're just going to fall right off the deep end. But to eventually admit to yourself, like, hey, I have a problem, and like to dive in deeper and see what's there so I can get over this. So yeah, not being in denial is a big one. Sometimes like resistance will show up, and it will show up in the form of denial. I'll stop tomorrow. Everyone drinks, it's fine. Oh, I only do it on the weekends. Oh, it's not that bad. Things like that. As soon as you hear those narratives start to play, that's the resistance showing up. And within resistance is a great learning always, and it's usually what you need to be doing. That's kind of the ego intertwined there. So yeah, being honest with yourself, that's a big one. And also too, behind all addiction is something you can learn about yourself. Just like behind every dragon, there's a treasure. So yeah, those are some of the inner workings of addiction that I've noticed. I've also had my own journey with addiction, and I'll just go into a bit of that. Um, I had addiction to many things, actually. Especially alcohol. I had some problems with alcohol, binge drinking a lot on the weekends for about 10 years. Cigarettes, I was a heavy smoker for about 10 years, about a pack a day. Got into some cocaine on the weekends. I did that for a little bit. Vaping, I got into vaping. That for me was more addicting than cigarettes. I was also addicted to thinking and like negative thinking. Also experiences, I got quite addicted to that. During the healing journey, I just got like really, I guess, addicted to like books and info and just like experiencing new healing modalities and like doing these psychedelics to heal this. So, like I just really got, yeah, I feel like I got kind of addicted to that whole like experience thing. And it was one experience after another. It wasn't ever just like, okay, let's do this to try to heal this and then try to integrate it. It's like, no, let's do this and then let's do this, no integration, and this, keep on going. And it just kept me in a crazy cycle. But yeah, addicted to thinking too is a big one. For me, after healing my trauma, I've been fine. I've absolutely no need to go drink or smoke or do drugs or any sort of addiction. I can say that I am absolutely 100% free from any process addictions and substance addictions. I'm very proud of myself. It's taken quite a bit of work and therapy and diving inwards, being curious, but I've got to that place. So I can say it's a much better, fulfilling life not having addictions in your life. It's very stressful to have day-to-day addiction. So yeah, that's just a little bit of my process. I did do some somatic experiencing, some breath work, some I did some workshops too that helped with addiction. But overall, the biggest help was, again, healing trauma. I can't stress it enough. You need to heal your trauma to get over these addictions. You can't just sit there and talk about it. You can't talk your way out of trauma. It's not going to, it can help, but it's not going to address the root. And the root needs to be addressed, else you'll keep going back to the coping mechanisms, which is addiction. So that's just my little spiel, some of my journey, some things I think about addiction, and I just wanted to give a few resources too for everyone if they're curious and want to go dive a little bit deeper and investigate some of the things I'm talking about. So Gabor Mate, he's a physician from Vancouver, I believe retired physician, but phenomenal man. He's got TED Talks, lots of great books. One of the best books he's written, I believe, on addiction is called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. He also has a website, and I'll put the link in the description as well as his book. There's a therapeutic modality that counselors can work with, and even non-counselors can work with it, by Peter Levine, called somatic experiencing, which is extremely helpful for healing trauma and things like PTSD. Richard Schwartz also has a therapeutic modality called internal family systems. This can be very helpful, otherwise known as parts work. I'll leave the description for both of these, or the link for both of these, in the description. Breath work also has been extremely helpful for me. Holotropic breath work, somatic breath work, things like that, like one-on-one breath work with a coach, a counselor, a trained guide can be very helpful. And also, another last resource is EMDR. I know that can be extremely helpful for people who have trauma. It's called eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And I believe there's another one called bilateral stimulation. So you have to look more into that. But anyways, thanks again for watching today's episode. And if you like what you're seeing and hearing, please like, subscribe, and share. See you next time.